I'm going to show you 5 simple swaps you can make to increase definition and reduce frizz. As a person with curly or wavy hair, you've probably dealt with frizz in the past or you're dealing with it right now. And you just want to know, how can you keep it under control? So today, I'll share what you can do right now to gain more control over your curly hair. I'm Delilah, and I help people with curly hair like you get better at caring for and styling their hair so you can simplify your routine and wear your curls with confidence. Increasing definition and reducing frizz is by far the biggest call for help I get in my messages on a daily basis. Everyone wants to know how to reduce frizz, but I do want you to know that there is no such thing as frizz-free. So frizz-free or having a frizz-free style should not be your goal, because you'll never get there and you're always going to be upset. We can, however, reduce frizz with these 5 swaps I'm going to share with you today. Watch until the end so you can learn the most common causes of frizz so that you are not making those mistakes. The first thing you can do is increase the hold of the products that you use when you style your hair. By increasing the hold, you help the curl clumps stay together. Frizz is caused when the curl clumps start to fall apart, so holding the clump together is going to be your best way of preventing frizz. Let's look at a curl clump so you can understand a little better what I mean. Here's a good one. So this is a curl clump, and there's many individual hairs inside the clump. And as they start to kind of fall apart, if I start to pull them away, you will see how this is starting to get a little frizzier. But if we clump it back together, that frizz is pretty much gone. So all these pieces that are frizzier, you can theoretically finger coil and get them all to be a little less frizzy. Again, the idea is keeping that clump intact so that the hairs don't come apart and cause frizz. Now, by having a harder hold, you also get to hold those clumps for a longer time. So not only do they just stay together, but it lasts longer. If you use something that has a maybe softer hold, or I should say lighter to medium hold, it's not going to hold that curl clump for as long as something with a harder hold. So if you use a harder hold product on wash day, that means that your next day hair is more likely to have less frizz than if you were to use a light hold product. So how can you increase the frizz? Your best bet is to swap out your styling products for products that have a harder hold. Look for styling products that say they have a strong or hard hold. That's ideal, and you're probably going to find these in mousses and gels more than in other products. Foams, for example, tend to have a very light hold, and that is not something that's ideal for reducing frizz. Creams usually have a light to medium hold. I don't recommend them on their own. You can pair a cream with a gel. You're better off with that. You could also do cream with mousse. Now, layering 2 products increases the hold if you're layering products that have a harder hold. Layering 2 light hold products doesn't really increase the hold. So you could do light and medium to increase your hold, or you can do medium and hard to increase your hold, or you can do light and hard as well. But don't just layer 2 light hold products and expect to get the equivalent of using a hard hold, because that's not how it works. You can also increase the hold by skipping your leave-in or curl cream, or simply using less. Most people are going to need a little bit of moisture underneath their gel, so you'll probably just want to use a little bit less product, but some people can get away with skipping it altogether. So for example, people like me can skip the leave-in and curl cream altogether and just go straight into the styling products after conditioning. The second thing you can do is style on wet hair instead of damp hair. Damp styling is great for volume, but it can lead to a little bit more frizz because the clumps are not going to be as well formed as if you style when your hair is wet. And we already know from my first point that curl clumps are key to reducing frizz. We want to keep those curl clumps intact, and the wetter the hair is, the better your hair is going to clump. So instead of towel drying before you apply your product before you towel dry, and then you can go ahead and glaze over a little extra product after if you're worried that perhaps using the towel has removed some of the product from your hair. Now, one caveat to this is that styling on wet hair can lead to less hold. And we know that more hold is better for less frizz, so you want to be careful. I'm not talking about dripping wet styling. You want to squeeze out most of the water from your hair. And for some people, it does work to towel dry and then style. But if you're struggling with frizz, you want to get a little more definition, test out towel drying after you apply your styling products and see if that makes a difference. Again, I recommend applying your product to your hair after you have squeezed out the water, then microplop with your towel, so that you can remove the excess moisture, and then you can go in and glaze a little extra product. You can scrunch some product in, glaze it over gently, and that's going to be your best bet to reduce frizz without having too much water in your hair when you're styling. The third thing that you can try is brush styling. Now, I know brush styling is not for everyone. There is a little bit of a learning curve there, and it doesn't work for every single hair type, but if it works for you, it could be just the thing you need to get more definition and less frizz. When you brush style correctly, it really coaxes the curls into these individual clumps that works better than any other type of styling. And when you brush style, your clumps will last much longer than if you didn't brush style. So highly recommend, if you're really struggling with frizz, trying to increase that definition, you give it a try. The key is to find a brush that works for your texture, and you have to use some tension when you're pulling on the curls so that it creates those clumps. And if you are worried about how long it will take to brush style all over here, you don't have to do it all. My recommendation is to just do the pieces around your face and maybe the top layer or whatever your frizziest parts are that you struggle with. Just brush style those areas and style the others as normal. That stuff's not going to show as much anyway, so I wouldn't waste time on my whole head of hair. The fourth thing you can do is to clarify your hair properly. In all the years that I've been doing this, when I talk to some people who are really struggling with frizz, one of the biggest problems is that they are not clarifying, or they're just not clarifying properly. So use a shampoo that has either a sulfate or olefin sulfonates, or you can perhaps use one that has a mix of cleansers in it, but the only surefire way to know that they really are removing all the buildup is sulfates and olefin sulfonate. Those are like the two, like if you see those ingredients, you know it works as a clarifying shampoo. So it's just the easiest thing for me to recommend. And then go ahead and shampoo 2 or 3 times back to back with that clarifying shampoo to really remove all the buildup you have. And then make sure you're using that like on a monthly basis at least. Also do check if you have hard water. If you have hard water, you need a chelating shampoo, and you need to use that regularly as well, because all that mineral that's in the water deposits on your hair and it builds up over time, and it leads to dryness and frizz and lots of other problems. So do check your water for hardness. The last change you can make is probably the trickiest one of these 5 recommendations / swaps that I'm telling you about today. And that is to make sure you're conditioning your hair properly. Now that means different things for different people. If you have really dry hair, you want to make sure that you are using a nice heavy conditioner. You're using some leave-in products that are really moisturizing the hair and they're lasting. And if you need to refresh, you're adding that moisture back in. If you do not struggle with dryness, then you don't need all that moisture. You can go with a lighter conditioner. You may or may not need a leave-in conditioner, but having your hair conditioned properly at the conditioner step is key to making sure that your hair is moisturized enough to not frizz out over the next couple of days. I'm a big proponent of squish to condish regardless of hair type. As long as you're using the right conditioner formulated for your hair type, squish to condish works really well for everybody. The tricky part is that not enough moisture and too much moisture can both cause frizz. So you kind of have to have an idea of your hair type and what it needs, so you know which direction you want to go in. If you've got really soft hair that like falls flat very quickly, it's just like really soft and doesn't hold a style, then you probably don't need as much moisture as other hair types. Typically, higher porosity, coarser hair is gonna need more moisture, but that's not a blanket statement. There are exceptions, but those are some general guidelines for you. Okay, so now that you have these 5 swaps to help increase definition and reduce frizz, what's your next step? If you really want to reduce frizz, then you have to make sure that you're not making one of these 11 mistakes that cause frizz. Watch this video next. It's called 11 Causes of Frizz and Their Fixes, and you'll learn about what's causing your frizz so you can diagnose it and fix it. Just click on the video you see on your screen and I'll see you there.